Hello, Judas.
Oh, have you paid me?
Yeah.
Who did I turn in this time for you, my king? Rachel.
You turned in Commander Nan.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew, and that's the biggest betrayal of this podcast, is me betraying the lady who said yum yum. That's right. You're listening. Everyone out there, you're listening to the YumYumPodcast, or just YumYumPodcast. I purposely didn't put a "the" in the title because I didn't want to say that we are the Yum Yum. We're just one of many. Yum Yum is a way of life. It's a service. My research has actually been ongoing. So we're the only Australian Babylon 5 podcast in the known universe in all of existence. Recently, I went to hell to check that out. I stopped off at Purgatory just to make sure that there were no Australian Babylon 5 podcasts there.
And especially none that have Yum Yum.
No Yum Yum. So there are no Australian Babylon 5 podcasts there. But again, the Germans thriving as usual with these podcasts. And some of these unbaptized babies have sat around the microphone and have started doing episode by episode breakdowns of Hypernauts, which makes sense because that's for kids.
Yeah.
Did you know it as the Gloose?
But Ryan, oddly enough, there's a lot of Time Lords that tune into that show because we know that they speak baby.
Let's not cross the streams with that.
Well, now you've done a Ghostbusters reference.
Oh no, we're stuck in the reference loop. Get me out of here. Get me out. I've not done anything. Fuck.
Get me out of here. Help me. Oh, fuck. Oh, I didn't do anything. Just get me out. Oh, get me out of here.
We love that line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery in which a character said yum yum so much.
It's not as straightforward as love.
You're right. I'm infatuated. I'm married to that line. You are that line, and I am that line for you.
No.
We're a married couple. We are a married couple. So you're that line for me, and I'm that line for you.
No.
Yes.
No.
Or as I say, yum yum.
I'm not going to compliment you now. You can suck it up.
I will. With my yum yum towel, I'll suck it all up.
Oh.
I don't know why that's made you feel gross, but there it is.
Covered in the AI sausage.
Oh. She won an Oscar.
Oh.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
She said AI sausage. That will be in her memoriam at the Oscars. AI sausage.
Oh, yes.
Ew.
So we're here to discuss an episode of Babylon 5.
Yep, that is correct. What one are we discussing, Rachel? Well, you have the DVD description in front of you, which is the description. All the others are fake. They're not real. People made them up.
The face of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Garibaldi sets in motion his plan to turn Sheridan over to Earth Force, and later confronts the shocking truth. He has been an unwilling agent of Bester and the Cyclops.
No, not Bester. They gave it away.
Though it's confusing because it doesn't say Cyclops. It says Cyclops, like cause, like CORPS.
That's the cycle, Rachel.
That's right.
Did you only figure that out now?
I didn't.
Did you know we're a rewatch podcast? We've watched this many times. We've talked for 80 plus episodes.
I just forget that it's a weird word, okay?
All right, the English teacher has decided it's a weird word.
It's a weird. What other word has a silent P that makes an E sound?
You know what? You've got me. I don't have the list in front of me, but I'm sure there's many others.
Oh. I have. No.
So, who did you think had YYE in this episode?
Bester.
YYE is, of course, Yum Yum Energy, a person who would have licked their lips and said Yum Yum if JMS wasn't a coward and didn't allow characters to actually say it. If he was brave and allowed them to say it, you're saying Bester. Bester's a great choice. We do get a close-up on his lips, and they look pretty...
It's French. That's why it's extra stupid. It's French.
Rachel, we're just gonna stop the brakes. No more B5 discussion. Let's just keep going over words that Rachel don't like. Another word I know Rachel is not a fan of.
No. Let's get back to B5.
Excuse me, Rachel. I've got two words. It's the same word twice. They start with a Y, end with an M.
Oh.
In the middle of there's one other letter. I think you can spell it out.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that one. I was prepared for worse. So you think that there's a contender that's not Bester?
Bester's obvious.
Yeah, Bester's obvious.
Can I do what we've done before, which is I'm not giving it to Bester. I'm giving it to Walter Koenig himself.
I give it to Bester.
Yeah. We're giving it to the same entity, nonetheless. But Walter himself, he's. Oh, can I give it to Harlan Ellison?
I want to throw a real curveball in there and say, I give it to the director.
Oh, Michael Veha. He was off the chain in this one with the direction. That barroom fight scene.
Mwah.
Wow. From a completely different show, but it really elevates the material.
What? It's a drink. What? Don't fight it. What are you doing? Just give it up or they're gonna hurt you.
The Face of the Enemy is an episode that I enjoy very much. It pays off, and that's not only one of its big strengths, but it is very important in a series like this with lots of setups that the payoffs are worth it. Because
a Garibaldi episode without being a Garibaldi episode, and those are the best Garibaldi episodes.
I really like how this is put together as well. The writing is JMS up the wazoo, lots of exposition, lots of monologues, lots of flowery dialogue, but the performances, the direction, the lighting, the music, all of this stuff is put together so magnificently that it helps accentuate what is already a great payoff. Because when I think of this episode, I think of it as solely we get the answers about Garibaldi, but there's so many other moving pieces here outside of just that big info dump and reveal. But overall, I like Face of the Enemy. It had a monumental task ahead of it, which is to be the thing that justifies a whole season of Garibaldi being unlikable.
Yeah.
And it fucking nails it. So
it's just like, oh yeah. Yeah, this is why Garibaldi has been a bastard, but also why it's made sense that he's being a bastard in this way up until a certain point, and then it keeps going. And we've referred to the speech that Bester has over, like, unconscious Garibaldi with who we know is Harlan Ellison.
The Harlan Ellison, who's been in the show before.
Yeah, his voice was here, and now he's here, voice and body. And he's just like, oh, I don't want to completely rework Garibaldi's mind. I'm just going to turn these certain knobs up a little bit and leave no trace.
Well, that's the best way to do it. Bester is very efficient at what he does, but overall, we're both big enjoyers of this. And it's not all Garibaldi. It's not all Edgar's. In fact...
Starts with Ivanova.
Starts with an Ivanova log. A monologue. And
so
those are the best type of monologues to open up an episode, because you know it's going to be serious when she's talking at the beginning in a very mannered tone. I
think that they're usually my favorite monologues, period. I love that they do this instead of a previously on. I really like it because it feels more effective with time to me, and it really helps establish the tone of the episode when they do the logs.
And they do them infrequently enough where they aren't an obvious crutch or staple of the writing within the series. Hence, when modern Star Trek does not have logs in it, many Star Trek fans are upset because it is such a pillar of Star Trek storytelling that when it's taken away, it leaves much to be desired, because that's a part of the fabric of that show. While here, the logs aren't a part of the fabric.
No, like we know that they exist, and then
they appear when they're needed.
Yeah, when we need something, or when we need a character's perspective, or
as you said, a great way to do a catch up without it just being a previously on.
Yeah,
and giving away all of the things that will be important in the episode. And it
shows us where the characters are up to rather than telling us what happened.
And telling us, hey, this will be relevant wholeheartedly, like how modern previously ons, they give you a clip show of all of these beats and they show you things
you need to know these things.
And you're like, oh, I guess that's going to come back. Or like, oh, look, like if this was a modern show, they'll give you a clip of Lise. And you're like, oh, I guess Lise is going to be in this episode, for instance. We actually have a great little side plot here with Franklin and Lita arriving on Mars.
Yes,
they're here, they're on their way.
A bunch of cryotubes with the telepaths in it. And number one ain't happy.
Well, number one's unhappy before seeing the telepaths in the cryo freezers. She's pissed that Franklin's brought a new lady along with him. Mm-hmm. And
then, she's a telepath. You came here before and you didn't tell us you were a telepath then.
I was running away
from
oh my
god, I need to deal with all of these cryo tubes, and fuck you, you've put us all in danger of the Bloodhound units.
Oh boy, the Bloodhound units of Psychor getting the name drop.
Such a good idea.
Oh, and it will become so beneficial to the joy that is the Byron arc.
Oh, no,
but they're the joyous part of it because they help make it end.
I just don't want to think about Byron. We're still in season 4. I don't want to think about Byron. I don't want to talk about Byron. I want him to be future Rachel's problem.
Okay, just 2 words for you. Remember Byron.
Remember Byron.
And since he's not with Marcus, who flummoxes and frustrates him, we get to see a very strong-willed Franklin in a different role.
Line. Yeah.
And you can definitely see, especially with Richard Biggs' performance, that it's actually wise to make Franklin go on these missions because he's supremely competent and skilled at this. If he wasn't a doctor, he would probably be a resistance leader, considering his convictions and considering what he is willing to do to stand against authority.
And he has a background in ship hopping.
Yes, he has a background in traveling and having contacts all over the place.
I think he called it hitchhiking. Right?
Yeah, he hitchhiked and he met all these different aliens and all these different people in life. But when he's talking to number one, who is up in his face, up in his grill, yelling at him and having a go, he stands his ground very firmly and makes the solid case for why Lita Alexander should be around.
And this is the right way to do it. So this is the way that it's gonna happen. He doesn't bend, and it's interesting to see him do that because you know the character well enough, and this also shines through in the performance, I think, as well, in terms of expression, but also like the way that Franklin carries himself when he's being challenged on certain things. But we know of Franklin that he doesn't back down when he thinks that he's right.
He's headstrong.
And we've seen the danger in that with Believers and his addiction. And we've also seen the benefit of that
Like in Confessions and Lamentations when he came up with a cure, even though it was too late.
Yeah, I was thinking of how he saves Garibaldi.
Mm.
And the fact that he's willing to do that.
Oh, yes, in the future. Yeah, as well, because we'll have some upcoming episodes with him being headstrong about Garibaldi. But
that comes back.
What I really like, what you're touching upon, is we've seen him be very determined, and they've played it out in terms of it being paired with a core feature of his arrogance and selfishness, as well as being selfless and noble, like with the Underground Railroad, of course. But
we've seen
played with
the sides of it. Like, this isn't a good or a bad thing. It depends on the context.
We've seen him grit his teeth and bark orders in the med bay when it's clearly a bad thing because he's on drugs or because he's on an ego trip. But to see that be applied to another frame of reference, like you're saying, a new context, here where it's about, I'm following these orders from Sheridan, oh, he's out of contact, well, I'm going to be taking charge here. It's refreshing, and it's also a brilliant way of not dropping the character traits of Dr. Franklin, but not making them stale and tired either. We don't have to slide back into him being an arrogant prick doctor to show this side of himself. You're a big fan of the series House, and that's one of the problems you could say about House, wouldn't you agree? Where they take him up to a certain point where you say, okay, it would be wonderful if we could drop or evolve this prickishness of the character, but the inherent pitch of the show is Doctor Who is a prick. And so we must go back to Doctor Who is a prick.
Yeah.
And
we can't change that. That has to stay the same, because otherwise the show doesn't happen.
Hence, when many people call, like, where it should have ended the great tip point of, like, okay, this is where it goes too far for some and not for others, when he goes to rehab? Isn't that is that the point of where you go, okay, they've kind of taken him progression wise where you would want him to go, and then he comes back.
Yeah.
Rachel's got a grimace on her face.
The dream episodes thing that happens and crashing the car into Cuddy's house.
Rachel, you seem so upset. But they don't do that with Franklin.
Wait, is that actually what happened? Because I kind of just
blocked it out?
Yeah, maybe just chosen to forget a little bit. Just trying to remember the things that I liked about House. Though,
like the Australian guy, right?
I still can't erase the ending. I'm not a fan of the ending of House, and I still can't erase that from my brain.
So many of the shows from that era had terrible endings, huh?
Yeah, they did. But
like Dexter.
And then Dexter's second ending.
Far out, they fucked it up twice.
Yeah.
What about Gilmore Girls? Does that fuck up twice? Would you count that? I don't know what the ending to the original run was like.
I enjoyed the ending of the original run for the most part. I didn't enjoy the season overall.
Did anyone?
Yeah, some people liked it.
Can we throw Scrubs in there as well?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Welcome to the Tangents episode of YumYumPodcast.
Hosted by Rachel and Ryan. Yum and Yum of YumYumPodcast.
Anyone suspected of being in the Resistance is scanned. They're very deep scans. The trouble with deep scans is they can cause heart attacks, seizures, strokes. There's been several deaths. She's right to be upset.
This episode does have a speech in it that I have forever remembered, and I've always forgotten which episode it was in, so I've always been waiting for it, which is the Lita's backstory about being trained for a psych-op role, because we've heard many times. We've heard many times that she left.
That she interned with them, and then that she decided that it wasn't for her, and to go into commercial work instead. And previously, like on the first watch, I kind of forget about this. Like, it's such a great scene, but it's not something that I remember or like think on when I think of Lita.
Right. It's what I think of with the Psy-Corps in general. Like, whenever we've talked about evil Psy-Corps doings, this is the top of the list. Like, this whole monologue she gives about what they did to a guy who was killing
But I never thought that there
telepaths.
was a single reason. Like, I always just accepted the way that she talked about it before this. And then I'm like, oh no, it makes sense that there would be one thing that would really tip the scales.
Because with Lita's backstory, she was from a family of people in Psycho. Like, she had telepath lineage. She was not like Talia Winters, where she was a random telepath who got taken from her family.
It's like she got taken in when she was younger as well.
But she was... That's when they had found her abilities, but she was from, if I'm not mistaken, this isn't The Gathering, I'm trying to remember, it's been so long, but I do believe that was the thing with Lita, was she was basically telepath royalty in that way, where it just went on for so long, and
thus there's sort of a little bit of shading that happens of it being a disappointment that she's just a P5.
Not anymore, baby.
Not anymore. We know that. Nobody else knows that yet.
Well, Besta knows.
Nobody has any clue exactly how powerful she is. We just know that she's no longer a P5.
And they all know who made her no longer like that. Besta figured it out,
Yeah,
too.
Besta figured it out. And
so did the crew.
Yeah.
They're all afraid of her, hence they kick her out of her room. That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Don't piss off the
godlike
weapon
entity
of mass destruction. It's just like poking an atom bomb with a stick.
Like,
just don't do it.
It's like pissing on uranium and expecting not to get poison up your stream. You're gonna die, baby. And oh my god, this monologue, JMS is really skilled, especially at, I don't know what it is, but he gives these female characters in the show these really fucking heavy, traumatic, here's my angsty, sad backstory, and they're so beautifully written, and I hang off every word. We had the Hour of the Wolf earlier this season. We had the story about Ivanova's mum killing herself earlier this season. We've had Delen's stories about the war, and now we have this about her father, and we have now this with Lita, where she goes over this case. And we've been told before that murderers are very difficult for telepaths to deal with, to go inside their minds, to hunt them down, to do all of that is horrid.
Her experiences as well as Talia's in the past of what it's like and why people avoid it. And we really know and feel the prejudice against telepaths that is just accepted back on Earth. So it makes sense that to some degree the normal police would be like, oh, murdering telepaths, we'll just treat this like a normal crime, or even just leave it to them because, oh, well, they're creepy, so we don't really care. But something that I was thinking about that on this particular watch, about how it makes sense that the police might not take this as seriously. But it would also make sense for the Psy-Corps to make it their mission to find them, even if the police were doing everything. Because the core is mother, the core is father. So them avenging their own makes total sense to me. The fact that they would go to any length to bring this person down, even if the police were being competent, I think that they still would have had that same attitude. And Lita was so deep in the core, she wouldn't know. She wouldn't have questioned it. Thus, there's something so painful about watching somebody talk about a trauma in their lives when they are like, yes, this was traumatic and I witnessed it, but I also supported it at the time. Like,
I was a part of the problem.
I was a part of the problem. I was a bystander and believed certain things that encouraged or enabled this behavior. And I think Pat does a great job with showing the shame that comes with that kind of experience.
Because it's just a camera still on these two actors. They don't give us any visuals of the story being told. They don't cut back to a young Lita as she witnesses this horrible event of how they captured this guy.
Screams.
No, there's no audio accompaniment. No, it's just a story. And you're right, Patricia Tolman's face, the vocal inflection, the body language, as well as Richard Biggs reacting off of it and trying to comfort her at points when hearing these horrible things,
and not make her shut down, because he realizes Lita's being vulnerable in this moment and trying to connect and share this with me, and I need to respect that vulnerability and not step on it. Like, there's this sort of engagement between the two characters that acknowledges how fragile this moment is and how important it is at the same time, because it's like that must have been weighing on her for a really long time.
And now that she's back in the core.
Yeah, and now it's like, well,
she's back to being a contributor. Yeah, she's back to being a participant in what they are.
They've gotten the claws back in her.
Yeah, and that's why she understands why the resistance is annoyed with her presence. They're not just annoyed, but they're justifiably angry, because the Bloodhound units are
they're afraid.
Shredding through the resistance and using horrid methods to do it. These deep scans that will kill people or incapacitate them. And to really just drill down, she talks about this story from her past about a guy who's killing telepaths, right? The cops don't give a shit. So the core will deal with it in their own way, which Bester says at the end of the episode about Edgar's. We'll deal with this in our own way. And this story here tells us some of their own way, which is, we just don't have to abide by the law. We'll just go in there and destroy a person. And so with this guy that Lita was having tracked down in the past, they just put horrific images in his brain that he cannot unsee. And so he's in an institution somewhere in a straitjacket 24/7, or else he would scratch his own eyes out, and no one believes the things that he sees, but they know that they put them there.
The mundanes didn't care. For them, it was just one less teep to worry about. So the psychops took care of it.
What'd you do?
What we had to. They scanned anyone who might have had a lead. No warrant, no permission, and no trace. Just gaps in their memory, missing hours, headaches.
I was really bowled over by Sheridan in this because of something that we are going through right now in our conversation, which is Bester is playing dirty here, and Edgar's is playing this Machiavellian evil over there, and Garibaldi is being a Judas figure here, and everyone around Sheridan that isn't in Sheridan's core team, all of these other forces are just playing this corrupt game, and they're winning for the most part here. Not everyone, but most of them are. And Sheridan, throughout the episode, he is Mr. Virtues. He's giving people the second chance. He doesn't want to kill them. He wants to save these fellow Earth officers, and he's trying to do the right thing. And he's so noble that he's going to go and see if he can save his father because he will regret it for the rest of his life. He's playing by the rules, even though it's in a world where the rules no longer exists in a large sense, as we see with so many of these other stories on the periphery around Sheridan. And it is amazing to me that he is punished for that in this episode.
Yeah.
It's like, you are too good to the point of being stupid. And they acknowledge, like, you're stupid, you're reckless, you're irresponsible, and you're not acting wisely here. But it's because he's deeply human. And that's one of the, like, key themes and ideas of the episode, is being deeply human and thus flawed.
Yep.
Because when we talk about characters in shows, there's an easy way to critique things, or when I say easy, like easy to fall into when you're criticizing something negatively. We go through, like we do with Discovery or even Babylon 5 in previous episodes, of going through, they're not acting logically here, or they're not acting like smart, or they're not doing things in a militaristic fashion. Like, they're not being infallible here. And so I understand that, but at times you also have to remember to make your characters flawed and human and make mistakes and go with their heart and their emotions rather than their brain, or else you get what we criticize in shows as well, where it's like, I can't relate to them because they're always right, because the script says they have to be right, and so they do all of the correct choices because that's what you do. That's boring as well. So Sheridan is always great as a lead in this series because he straddles that line between being supremely competent and a Jesus-like figure and being a fucking dumbass, and this episode really puts him in the dumbass category with acknowledgement. That's the important thing. It is a part of the story that
it's not accidental, and it's not without thought on the part of the writer and the character.
And so he barrels forward to go meet Mr. Garibaldi, knowing it could be a trap, but going with good intentions in his heart, thinking that Garibaldi, yes, he may have a problem with me, but he would never want to see harm come to me. He has that naivete still within him, and at the end of the episode, it's beaten out of him. He's getting fucking punched in the face for having even thought good of others. And yet at the beginning, he was rewarded for being a good person because these ships surrendered, they listened, they understood through the help of Mackie. And again, Mackie is a great example of what Sheridan does being a benefit to the world at large, we see. And so it's great to have that duality here of the positive attributes that Sheridan gives to the world, but also how that can lead to a road of ruin. In this case, with him going down to this planet to meet Garibaldi and get captured, to get tranked, go into a really well-crafted and put-together bar fight sequence. I mean, is that one of the best pieces of visual direction we've had in the show? It's so striking and so memorable. I've always remembered this being a scene in here because I mean, it's so grand and operatic and just, it's really like when you hear Sheridan gets tranked and goes into a bar fight and they capture him, you can imagine how season 1 or 2 would have shot that. Think about Survivors. Remember how Garibaldi got caught in Survivors? Where he just stumbled and fell down and then they just said, "Drunk again, Uncle Mike?" We've gone so much beyond those days of simplicity to this here being a sequence where, in an episode where like Bester gives a 40-minute monologue that's fantastic and you get laser fights and you get Ivanova giving things here, the fact that Sheridan just getting a trank on his hand and punching a bunch of dudes is one of the go-to images I have of not only this episode, but of season 4. Highest of praise I can give to Michael Vejar on that, and the whole team, the editor, Chris Frankie here doing the music and the songs and all that, like, and they had still photography and strobe effects. It's everything's on the screen. And season 4, say what you will about it, is I think in my mind the most ambitious when it came to presentation, when it came to direction. I think season 5 still has some of that in there as well, but season 4, every episode you get some marvelous imagery in there. In every single episode, there's always at least that one scene where you can't help but stagger back and just be agape, your mouth agape at it.
It's stunning, and I really got excited when we finished watching this episode for the podcast, and we're like, "Yeah, there's a commentary," and I'm like, "Yes, please. I want to hear them talk about that scene at least." And it was fascinating.
Did you know that there's a telepath problem? I know.
What?
And it's up to one capitalist to help save the day.
Oh my god.
And
Edgar's is a hero.
He's such a hero. Lise overheard this.
He's doing God's work.
Not only God's work, but he's doing the work of man.
He's got more money than God. So it's his job. It's his job.
It's his cause to create a virus that will kill telepaths and create the antidote. And so, in turn, make them a slave race and also make bank on it as the pharmaceutical guy.
Oh, yeah.
And
he doesn't mention that part.
That's implied. And he has come up with this solution to the telepath problem. We've gone over in the previous episode his issues with telepaths and how they're going to be this dominant race. And they go over it again here with Homo sapiens and what do they call?
Homo superior.
A Homo superior, because that's what Bester's called them as well. The Homo superior, basically, telepaths being the evolutionary next step, and so they would take over because they have the ability to, and we cannot stop them. And so we are now going to cheat our way into being the dominant by manufacturing this virus and keeping them as slaves. And this is such a devilish plan that when Bester learns of it, he had no idea of the magnitude of which it would go. He had suspicions that it was bad, but nowhere near this. And we are joking around a little bit about Edgar's being like this good man who thinks well of himself, but that is how he portrays it.
He's saving humanity.
That he has to step up and do something because no one else is. And everyone else is uncomfortable with what is happening, but unable to do anything. So he, with all the money and resources in the universe, he's going to do it. And he's figured out this way of doing it. And what a master plan. I mean, for a villain in a show where telepaths exist, this is a great solution to the problem, and it's one where you are curious of what the show would have looked like if it succeeded, because it's just so vile and calculating.
I expect we can start moving the virus out in a few days. 3 weeks after that, according to our projections of the infection rate, the telepath problem will finally be over.
And so we move through the plot and we get the reveal. After Edgars has given the big truth to Garibaldi, he goes into Manchurian candidate mode, rips out his tooth, rips out a fake tooth, breaks it, there's a transmitter inside, and we start to unravel what has been the season 4 mystery behind whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi when he was captured at the end of season 3. And he goes to the tube, and before we could get the real explanation, you know who turned up. Rachel, say her name. Say her name, Rachel. She turned up, she overheard what was going on, and she's going to plead to Garibaldi's humanity to figure out a way to save the day.
Lise!
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 We love Lise. Lise is such a good character. Such a good character. One of the best. Lise is so strong-willed that when she hears her husband's evil universe game-changing plan, universe-altering plan, she says something along the lines of, I can understand his point of view on it, but it's wrong. It's like,
He's gone too far.
he's gone too far.
He's gone too far. Like, bitch, please.
He's planning a Holocaust. Bester doesn't beat around the bush. That's what he's planning. He's planning a Holocaust and slavery. That's what he's planning. And Lise, he's gone a step too far this time, Michael. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Michael is in full blank face mode and just tells her to leave. And
Go home.
Go home.
I said it with more emotion than he does, though.
Where's home for Lise, though, Rachel?
Apparently not her Mars mansion. Because she doesn't go back there. Because otherwise she would be dead.
Thank God that home is not there. She didn't take him in that sense, but wherever she goes, at least she wasn't there. I cried tears of joy when the ISN reporter said that Lise managed to make it out and we don't know where she is. I was so happy. That means we get more Lise, and that's worth the price of admission. Honestly, more Lise, more fun.
You have a new lease on life?
Oh, man. Thank you all so much for listening. I've really enjoyed this podcast. I think we should wrap it up now because it's never going to get better than that. We had the spotlight. We had the whole best of monologue to talk about. I mean, but whatever. The whole new lease on life thing that Rachel just said, I don't think we're going to get better than that. The podcast is over. In fact, no more P5 discussions. That's the end of the podcast.
It, but I was just taking a bow.
She was bowing, and you can't hear it, but I'm throwing flowers at her right now, and she's sniffing them, and she's waving at the crowd and blowing kisses from how good the lease on life thing was. Oh, tears of joy. Not as many tears of joy from me as when I see Lise on the screen, but almost as many. It is on record that we have enjoyed Garibaldi's season 4 prick arc, where he has been an antagonistic presence, a prickly customer. And it's because the reveal makes it all work. It makes it all add up. And it is, we've said this many times too, it is a very tricky thing to pull off when you do something like this. And I'm actually trying to recollect, is there a show or movie or book that you've engaged with where they've taken such a chance and it pays off, where they have our character has gone bad, and then we reveal actually they weren't actually bad, but they were either faking being bad, or they were under the control of something else, or it wasn't actually them, but somebody pretending to be them.
Ryan, you know what one is.
Tell us all. Everyone, sit down. Rachel's going to tell us a tale.
it's a show that we've both watched. We both watched the whole thing. A group of friends in their mid to late 20s and into their 30s. Sitcom.
Well, How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, Barney.
Oh. Where what the reveal is that he was once a hippie.
Yeah, that he wasn't an evil corporation dude at all. He was an FBI informant the whole time.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. That's so stupid.
It's so stupid. It doesn't work for us.
What was this term he used that was like the code?
Please.
Oh, please. Yeah, please. You got me there, Rachel. How I Met Your Mother did it. Nailed it.
Done. Dusted. Moving on.
Fucking How I Met Your Mother.
I'm loving how much I'm stumping you this episode.
By the way, the spotlight actor was in a really good episode of How I Met Your Mother, so we'll circle that one. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But this does pay off. Bester reveals that they captured him, Garibaldi. They adjusted his personality. They took these attributes and cranked them up to 11, and the ones that would be beneficial to being a normal person, they turned them down.
And make him good at his job as well. Like, because a lot of those things that they turn down are the things that allow him to be level-headed.
Compassion.
Like, they turn up, it's weird how, like, all of the things that they list off are key traits of Garibaldi that make him good at his job.
And then it fucks him. That's the brilliant thing is we, the audience, as well as the characters, have been really coming to terms with Garibaldi throughout the season because he's doing these things that are clearly wrong, but you can see how these are things Garibaldi has done in the past, but they've just been accelerated to a degree where you cannot sympathize with him, and if you do, it's very minorly, and you're angry at him. And to reveal that, yeah, we just got rid of the part of him where he has self-control and is nice, and we left the part of him that's a weird, bitter conspiracy theorist guy who hates authority, is insecure, quick to anger. We just left that in, and every now and then we'd nudge him in the direction we needed. They didn't even expect him to quit his job. He did that on his own. They thought, oh, he'll probably just get fired or he'll do something else, but no, he quit his job. They left him to be unpredictable in a certain way, and that aided them. And so they had him be this undercover figure to not only bring down Babylon 5, got Sheridan caught, but to bring down Edgar's, to find out this plan and get the information. And so now we know we can just storm in there and just kill them all, take the virus and the antidote for what we want it for now. We can study it. We can do what we like.
Okay. I wanna take a quick moment to talk about something that does not matter at all. Edgar's bloody handprint is on the thing, right? And they watched the vision of Garibaldi's memory, which, weirdly has a sepia tone effect. Do you think he has an issue with seeing colors?
I think that's how your brain remembers the past. And that's why when movies came out, they had sepia tones because it's like your memories.
Oh, well, my memory doesn't all look like that.
It's like that. It's like that. What was it? That myth that when it was black and white movies, they dreamed in black and white only, which isn't true.
No,
that's a lie.
No, it's like it's
good one.
You see colors in the world. Like
no, Rachel. I've only seen black and white movies, so.
Oh no!
I only watch silent movies, so my dreams don't have sound.
But you don't remember your dreams, period.
They have interstitials with dialogue. But you were saying his bloody handprint is on the thing.
Sorry, I just
Clearly
need to
they
take a moment
used
to plug Our Thoughts on Trip to the Moon.
Oh, wow. Are we doing that now? Guys?
Well, you only watch black and white movies, so we've been avoiding that one.
Yes, we've done The Man Who Laughs.
Like, we even did The Artist.
So, do you have a point?
Yes.
I'm at the stage where I'm like, does Rachel have a point?
I have a question, which is, they needed him over there to, get his handprint, obviously. But Garibaldi finds him on the opposite side of the room.
Yeah, he's on his back and he has his hand, clawed on one of the drawers like he was trying to get up, and then he died like that.
Yeah. And my question is...
What happened?
Did they drag him over there? Did he crawl away? Or did they cut his hand off?
No, his hands are both intact.
Yeah.
I think they used him there and then just threw him and shot him or whatever, because you do see some blood smears on the ground, and then he is up there and he's trying to get up.
Wade is closer to the cabinet, I believe.
No, Wade is halfway across the room. He was clearly on the couch and they shot him and he fell off.
Yeah.
And they thought, that's good enough. And it almost was.
Because Edgar's was closer to the entryway, I thought. But like I said, this doesn't matter, but I'm always aware of geography in these kind of situations, and I love it when there's an explanation for how they get from to or fro, or even if there was a little bit more of a blood trail over to where he was, or you saw a boot print or something.
You get the brilliant moment at the end where they're taking photos of the crime scene.
Great.
And it looks like when you watch a true crime documentary or the news and they cut to the crime scene photos and they have that different...
And why does it look that way, Ryan?
Because they're real still photography. But again, that's the extra effort put into this episode.
Elevated.
It's elevated.
Preliminary reports from investigators on the scene indicate that the resistance may have been responsible for the attack as they continue their assault against business and political targets. Nothing is known yet concerning the whereabouts of his wife, Lise Edgars.
It's time for the Spotlight, the part of the show where we go over an actor or actress that appeared in the given episode, or episodes that we've watched, in this case, another one. We talk about their performance in the series, we go over their career, any interesting pieces of trivia, or things of their life. And we have to talk about Richard Gant is the actor who plays Mackie. Mackie, who... This is Mackie's last episode. Yeah. He was introduced in one and finishes here. And that's a critique I have.
Yeah, I want more. I want follow through.
I wanted not only him to be in the Earth conflict more, but they have the In the Beginning movie.
Yeah.
And that would be a great place to have Mackie. And I don't know if it was the actor was unavailable due to scheduling, or there was just no place to put Mackie in the story further or in the beginning.
Yeah,
but
if it wasn't needed.
Love Mackie. I love Mackie. I think he's great. He's so warm and he has that regimented feel of an officer. You can definitely tell if you haven't already seen this actor in a million things, which he's been in everything. But if you haven't even seen him in anything before, you haven't noted him down, you see him in Babylon 5 and you just know he's played authority figures a lot, because this is second nature to him. There's never a moment where I think that this is an actor playing a soldier. I think of him as Mackie. I think of him as a soldier. I personally have seen him in a million things. Tone-wise, he's done so many as serious and silly and anywhere in between. And Mackie is a fairly straight-laced character, but he brings this just warmth to the role that makes it memorable. And so when he's facing off against his fellow Earth Force officers who are either cowardly or afraid or pig-headed. He's a great counterbalance to them every time. And so I miss Mackie. I wish he was in the show more.
A nice foil to Sheridan. I think that's really important as well, to see somebody who was a mentor to Sheridan and how he engages in this. And it's interesting that we get that little bit more of Mackie, and we've had that little bit before of like Sheridan being in that role, and navigating that now that he's sort of surpassed his mentor in lots of ways.
And he also has his mentee,
and he has his mentee in this episode.
With the captain of the Agamemnon passing all of the responsibilities of everything over to Sheridan, and Sheridan being giddy about being back on his old ship and knowing everything and being glad that things have been updated, and a lot of ship talk.
When he corrects himself, when he's like,
But Richard Gant has had an illustrious career, and just to go to the performance that he gives here, he brings that weight that character actors do to these small roles. That's a part of why we do the Spotlight section. Babylon 5, as with many shows that anyone watches, with a revolving door cast of one-off characters, you get certain types of people there, and they add to the flavor of the material you're watching. When I watch Star Trek, when I watch Battlestar, when I watch Better Call Saul or something, a huge thrill is being able to see these, what could be argued as inconsequential or nothing characters, make their mark, and make their mark in part because
those are the ones that populate the world.
They populate the world, and they help flesh out our characters. And this is an art of casting when you get someone like Richard Gant, because we get so many wonderful character actors. I mean, one of the greatest character actors that's not in Babylon 5, but I always point to as being an example like Richard Gant in this way, where when you see them, you go, hey, it's that guy. Hey, they're going to be good, is Stephen Root. He's a great actor when it comes to that. But anytime Stephen Root shows up, I'm just licking my lips going, oh boy, he's going to add anything. And that's how I feel about Richard Gant. Every time I've seen him, he
always seems to be on his A game, but knows what he's in at the same time.
A recurring thing that I've seen in his career of the roles he plays and the way he plays them. We've said authority figures. That's a trademark of his career. He's played judges, doctors, lawyers, cops, soldiers, all of it. President, probably at some point. But one of the recurring things that is not present with Mackie is that stoic apathy. He very much plays that a lot in his roles of the guy with the face that is non-emotive, but in so doing says so much. He's in The Big Lebowski as the cop that doesn't give a shit, next to the cop that cares way too much about the dude's car being stolen and the tapes that are missing and no credence, huh? And all of that. He is very marvelous at that. But Mackie, on the other hand, he's really in tune. He's really emotive. He's really engaged. But from my perspective, whenever I've seen, like, a lot of Richard Gant roles really rely on him being, po-faced and being the super straight man in the room to it being funny. Him in How I Met Your Mother, him in Boston Legal. Those are both judge roles where he's having to be flummoxed or perturbed or just getting through the job next to these heightened, wacky characters or this absurd situation that is taking place around them. That, to me, is what Richard Gant does. He was in Smallville as the straight-laced principal in an episode. Like, he has been all over the shop, but whenever he's in a comedy, I've noticed that's the key to what he does. He reminds me of Tucker Smallwood in that way as well, where Tucker Smallwood...
I get that.
But I think Tucker Smallwood leans into being absurd more often hence we get in Space Above and Beyond the strawberry speech where he's being so crazy, or him, Tucker Smallwood in the Sarah Silverman show where he plays Black God. And so he's being very over the top, or of course when he was in Black Dynamite, one of the greatest films ever made. I had a gander at his roster, and it goes on for ages, and there's a lot of things he's in that I go, Rachel's in that?
Yes. But like the weird thing was I kept on, I was like, wait, I know that show, and I know that show, and I know that show. Like he just seems to get one-off roles on like so many popular shows. Like he was in The Cosby Show, Miami Vice, MacGyver, Beverly Hills, Seinfeld, Lois and Clark, The Mindy Project. And then
The Middle, American Dad, Charmed, Smallville.
And then he's also done some films like Rocky V, Stone Cold,
Jason Goes to Hell,
Revenge of the Nerds. In terms of things that I know him from, obviously, Big Lebowski. Love that movie.
Everyone does.
If
you don't, you're wrong. How does it feel to be wrong? Do you feel like a fool? You should.
Do you find in much these stolen cars?
Sometimes. Wouldn't hold out much hope for the tape deck, though.
Or the Credence.
He was, to just reference some B5 connections. Jake and the Fat Man, he was in that.
Yeah.
Not when JMS was on. But another B5 connection to point out was he was a mainstay role, or at least a big recurring role in NYPD Blue during the time that Andrea Thompson was on it.
I looked at that and I was like, I think Ryan would have looked at that.
It's interesting because he started out doing what he does, which is one-off roles.
Yeah.
You look at him
but
in the first 2 or 3 seasons and he plays different characters as like desk clerk, officer. And then at some point they just said, you're this role now.
Yeah.
You're just such and such. And so he did grow in that way. And he does have those, like in NYPD Blue there, or later on in something like Mr. Iglesias, where he does have roles that stay around for a while, whether he's a main cast member or a very much an ongoing recurring character in the roster, which is unusual for him. That's not always the case. And now we were going over some of the stuff. I mean, is there any one of them in particular where you go, oh, now I remember him for that?
Bones.
I knew it. I wrote down Rachel talk about Bones. He was in Gilmore Girls, I think. No, he was in Bunheads.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry. How could I fuck that up?
I haven't watched Bunheads.
You haven't watched Bunheads? But I thought you were a Gilmore Girls fan. Isn't that, like, related to that?
Same showrunners, I think.
Damn.
No. Would you like me to tell about who he is in Bones? Okay.
Is he a judge?
No.
Is he a doctor?
No.
Is he a cop?
No.
Is he a father of a victim?
No.
Is he a victim?
No.
I've guessed them all.
He's the boss of a victim.
No. What was his job?
TV producer.
Oh.
He produced a show that was, I think it's just called Cheaters, where they bust people cheating. But for some reason, I can only think.
Oh, so he's like a hack TV producer.
Yeah.
Oh, even better.
And it's the host of that gets murdered.
Brilliant.
And shoved into a toilet. It's the man in the outhouse.
Oh, no, you can spoil it. Did Richard Gant do it?
I'm not going to spoil it.
Damn it! Fuck! Now, How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
Do you remember him in that?
Yes.
Because that's an iconic episode.
Yes. Yes, I do. He was great. Love it. But I just explained Bones.
So in How I Met Your Mother, it's the episode where Marshall and Lily try to elope, and where are they? In the Atlantic City, I want to say they're in.
Yeah.
Is this the Liberty Bell episode as well? I can't remember. No, they're getting eloped, and Robin is wearing the absurd shirt with like the sexy lady illustration.
Bikini.
Yeah, in the bikini, and he's the judge that they're trying to get like him to marry them, and it's late at night. They've stormed into his office, and he is just, what is going on here? Why is this happening? And he like begrudgingly goes through the routines for them, and it's just he has no real context. And then, like with most How I Met Your Mother side characters, becomes deeply aware of it and entranced by it, and can't help but be involved now.
Yeah.
And that, I mean,
that before or after they go on the boat to try and get the captain to do it?
I cannot remember, but he is great in that. I loved him in that. And yeah, he's been in all over the board. I mean, he was in Friends.
Touched by an Angel.
Deadwood, he was an ongoing role in that for a little while. He was in Norbit, one of the worst films ever made. But then he was also in Dear White People. So, there we go. Like, in a few episodes of Dear White People. He was recently in Doom Patrol as a general.
Yeah, you already mentioned Mr. Iglesias, which is the reason I think that he has Instagram. I think, like, around 2019, 2018. He has not posted in a while, but one of like his first posts is just like finally signing up to Instagram and seeing that I've been tagged in a bunch of selfies.
Cute. You watched Mr. Iglesias, and I know that our friend and fellow B5 host, podcaster Magellan from Chat's a Television podcast, both big fans of Mr. Iglesias, whilst admitting that it was a bad show. And
it was fun.
My parents said the same thing. Everyone keeps saying to me that's watched Mr. Iglesias go, it's a bad show, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
And he's in that
not,
show.
It was not funny, which is bad for a comedy.
But was Gant funny in it?
Yeah.
Let me guess, was he like the middle, like straight man teacher guy? Like, I'm too old for this?
Basically, like the I'm waiting for retirement.
What kind of teacher was he? Do you remember? Was he like the history teacher? That would make sense.
No, Mr. Iglesias is
the history teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
I've never watched it. I'm going to guess he's like a civics teacher or something, mundane maths maybe. Or as they call it over in America, math. Because they only do one mathematic. They don't do more. We call it mathematics because we do multiple mathematical forms, but they just call it math. Just one. Which one do they do? Algebra? Is that the only one? I don't know. Tell me, Americans, why do you only do one math?
We should also acknowledge that he was in Bean.
I didn't want to acknowledge it, but I did write it in my list.
And Diagnosis Murder.
Oh, your favorite show, Diagnosis Murder. Now, I had actually a difficult time finding some information about him outside of just what he has been in. When you look at his information on Wikipedia or IMDb, there's nothing. He's tall. That's about it. He is 6'3", and that's about it. And so I didn't go as far into looking into his real life stuff. I asked if you could do that because I just had a feeling like there must be more than just this blankness of like, of course there is, but like somebody like him who's been in the industry as long as he has, been in so many different projects as one-offs or ongoing, done so many roles, whether it is authority or not, or serious or comedy. I mean, that guy has to have some stories or information about his career. So what have you found?
Well, I want to give the caption for one of his Instagram posts first, because this was one of the more personal ones, not a set photo or selfie with the cast. And the caption is this, and then I'll describe the photo just in case you can't get the gist of it. There are 3 things I love doing in life. 1, golf.
Yeah.
2, golf. 3, see the first 2.
Oh, it's him golfing.
It's him in a golf cart with, I believe, like a little, like
Hat?
a hat.
He has the hat?
And like his, like, caddy.
Oh, my.
Like, caddy? Like, I know the caddy is the person, but is it also, like, the bag with the clubs in it?
Golfers? Email us at yumyumpod@gmail.com and specifically send it to Rachel and maybe make the header golfy, just so we know. Just so we know you know the information. We gave you all the clues. Now, he's a golf fan. He's somebody who likes participating in golf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that adds up. I can see that. That makes sense.
Also, he's done, like, one of the things that's in his Instagram bio was philanthropist. And I was like, what kind of work does this man do? What kind of work does this man do? So I searched for keywords, and he did, I think it was in 2019 or something like that, a charity poker tournament. So that's fun, I think. And then his name's been attached to a few different non-profits throughout the years. None of them seem to be active now, though, which kind of makes me
Sometimes they're just short-term projects.
Yeah.
Like, if they reach the goal of what they're going after, then you don't need them.
Yeah, like, his life's work is to get Black Americans and Africans together on stage. That's the thing that he's really, really passionate about. And that was, like, a goal of a charity, maybe a business. I wasn't really sure that he set up that was actively trying to engage getting African Americans into theatre work and putting on a lot of African plays. That's sort of always there, and that seems to be what gives him a lot of fulfillment. Something that we haven't directly acknowledged is his amazing voice.
It is amazing.
And
It's deep, but it's also very dry.
Authoritative but reassuring as Mackie. So when I tell you that this man did an anti-bullying PSA...
Oh my god. Did you stop bullying after you watched it?
Where he says...
Oh no, are you going to read it?
I think I should start reading it and then you bleed in the audio.
Because it's like you've become
No!
Richard Gant.
No!
Everyone, listen to Rachel slowly become Richard Gant in 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's put an end to bullying. Learning to love yourself, respect others. These are the principles
that create positive people. Even adults can be victims of bullying, so if you know of somebody who's a victim, or if you yourself are a bully, then please visit the website below for resources that might help. Let's put a stop to bullying.
Would you like to know why he first stepped on stage?
Yeah, sure. Did somebody push him?
No.
Was this a teacher said, you're going to act?
No.
Because that happened to John Vickery.
Yeah.
And he thought, no way, that's for losers.
No, that's not why he did it. It was because he encountered a specific playwright when he was at school or at college. I wasn't entirely certain. Called Langston Hughes. He was a big playwright at the time. And that's like reading his plays was what motivated him to get into acting. And he was sort of at the foundation of creating this drama group / project that was sort of where his life's purpose also bloomed. But he was at a specific college, at a very specific time where other people were also kind of forming those communities around civil rights and particularly like black activism. You want to guess what group? So he could have fallen in with a very different group.
With the Black Panthers?
Yes. He was at the same college at the same time where the Black Panthers were formed.
Oh. And he could have gone with them, but instead he was too busy being a theatre man, doing theatre.
If his life went slightly differently, yeah. Like, he doesn't explicitly say, if I didn't get into drama, I would have joined the Black Panthers.
But no, it is important to note that was happening at the same time, because that is important. If you were at university and it was the same university as a group like that, that would be something that you would talk about, but also on a level you would have to contemplate and think about, and not in the sense of, oh, if I didn't do this, I could have joined that, but it is something to chew on, especially with a group that has made such a mark in history.
Yeah.
Richard Gant, such a legend. He's just one of those magnificent character actors that you may not know his name, but you know that face or that voice, and he's added to every project he's been in. I've never been disappointed by Richard Gant.
No.
B5, he is fantastic, and wish he was in it more.
Yeah.
Wish he was in it more.
More Mackie.
Mackie Moore, please. Thank you.
Not Macklemore.
No Macklemore, Mackler less. On our scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good, no half yums, no in-betweens.
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
Wow, you couldn't even wait.
Nope.
I give it a yum.
Hands down.
I give it a yum yum as well.
Yum yum.
I want to know what we'll be watching and talking about next time on Babylon 5.
On the next Babylon 5.
Intersections in real time. Sheridan is alone and vulnerable, and a simple signature will set him free. An Earth Force Inquisitor draws from his bag of cruel tricks and mind games to coerce the captain into a confession of treason.
Big episode. Memorable episode. And one that we can't wait to talk about. So please join us next time and make sure to give it a watch for yourself. We would love to hear your opinions on that one or the one we've just talked about, The Face of the Enemy. You can contact us as well as follow us over on your social media of choice under YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast. We have an email address which is
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
We have a Patreon if you want to support the show. If you like what we do here and you want to go that extra step, you can go over to YumYumPodcast on Patreon. You get to be a part of the group Discord that we have, so you get to chat with some of your fellow Yumlings, share some memes, some jokes, some links, as well as when you join the Patreon, you get so much bonus content. Content that has been living on the Patreon, hasn't come onto the main feed. If you want to hear what we say about the Star Trek movies or the Alien movie franchise, heck, we've even talked about the X-Men movies. All of them, including New Mutants. We're the only people in the world who's actually watched the New Mutants. So head on over to our Patreon and you get to hear so much stuff happening. At the moment, we're watching The Expanse for the first ever time. Rachel has her hand up in excitement saying, me, I want to tell them about stuff that's happening.
Some people may be questioning. You said earlier that you only watch black and white movies. So we do watch TV in color.
Oh, do we? Yeah, TV, yes. But all the movies, I put the black and white option on my TV. So it counts.
Yep.
And
we just can't change the color settings.
I buy those DVDs, those special steel case ones where they've given you the black and white edition of the film that adds nothing to the film itself. But it's there as a gimmick anyway.
Yeah.
Those are the only DVDs I own.
We only saw the chrome version of Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, and the black and white version of Parasite, which added so much to that colorful movie. So that is all we have for you. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for engaging with us. And
I'm sure all of the Yumlings listening at this point felt the absence of Jakar.
Where was he? Why wasn't he in the tube with Garibaldi after Bester left to say, Mr. Garibaldi? And then he taps his chest and says, good evening to you, as he leaves with Garibaldi's hat. And that's what makes Garibaldi scream like that. He goes, It's not him remembering all the terrible things he's done. And now he must live with knowing that all of his friends hate him. Ivanova will shoot him on sight. It's him saying, that damn Jakar stole my hat! Not my hat!
Mr. Garibaldi!